everyone's having a good feast so far. That was quite a day. I'll share a little bit of it real quick. It was in March, and it was unseasonably cold for over there in Florida. And my wife and I, we were baptized on the same day, my wife Ashley and I. And it was cold, the wind was blowing, and we were baptized in Juniper Lake. And so when it was my turn to be immersed, my foot popped out of the water. And so Scott says, you didn't fully go under, we have to do it again. And I'm already out of breath. I don't handle cold water very well at all. So the second time, everything worked out. So we all think fondly of that day. But this morning, I want to talk about someone from the Bible. And his example is of encouragement, and his life shows us in a similar way what God is doing for each and every one of us to prepare us for Christ's reign on the earth. And if anyone's wondering who it is this morning, I'm speaking of Joseph. A little background of Joseph. He lived almost 4,000 years ago, and he was the son of Jacob and Rachel. He lived in the land of Canaan with 10 older half-brothers. He had one full brother by the name of Benjamin, and we know he at least had one half-sister. And he was kind of his father's favorite, and this led to him having problems with his older brothers. And they really despised him when he began to have dreams. And he had 2 dreams. I was wondering any of the young people here maybe knew of the 2 dreams that Joseph had. If anybody would like to, you can speak out if you want. You don't have to if you want to either. Well, that's okay. He had 2 dreams. His first dream was his brother's sheaves of wheat were bowing to his in the field. And his second dream was the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowing to him. Sadly, though, some of his brothers became so jealous of him that they wanted to kill him. But instead, they sold him into slavery, and he was taken to Egypt. And to make things even worse, they lied to their father, making him believe that Joseph was killed by a wild animal. So when Joseph arrives in Egypt, he's sold into Potiphar's house, but he's not alone. God is watching over him. And Joseph doesn't know, but his training by God has already begun. God blesses Joseph, and Potiphar appoints him as overseer of his house, and his house prospers under him. But Joseph begins to have another problem. Potiphar's wife begins to notice him and wants Joseph to commit adultery with her. Under this trial, though, we begin to see his character. In Genesis 39, 8 through 9, it says, "But he refused and said to his master's wife, 'Behold, because of me my master has no concern about anything in the house, and he has put everything that he has in my charge. He is not greater in this house than I am, nor has he kept back anything from me except you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?'" We can see Joseph is steadfast and he's focused. He's not going to sin against God. And Potiphar's wife concocts a false story against him, and this leads to Joseph being thrown into prison. So Joseph has gone now from a slave to a prisoner, but God is still with him. Further on in chapter 39 of Genesis, verses 21 through 23 states, "But the Lord was with Joseph, and he showed him steadfast love and gave him favor in sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison put Joseph in charge of all the prisoners who were in the prison. And whatever was done there, he was the one who did it. The keeper of the prison paid no attention to anything that was in Joseph's charge, because the Lord was with him. And whatever he did, the Lord made it succeed." So we can see that Joseph now can run a house and a prison. But while he's there, he meets 2 interesting people. He meets Pharaoh's cupbearer and his baker. And Pharaoh had them put in prison for committing an offense. One night, they both had dreams, and these men were troubled by these dreams because no one could interpret them. But Joseph then says to them, Does not interpretations belong to God? Please tell them to me. We can see Joseph again brings attention to God, showing his humility, that it's not because of himself. The cupbearer tells his dream, and the interpretation is that he would be restored to his position next to Pharaoh in 3 days. But he requested the cupbearer to remember him and mention him to Pharaoh after these things have taken place. So the baker then tells Joseph his dream, and the interpretation is that he would be put to death by hanging in 3 days. 3 days later, both of these dreams come to pass, but unfortunately, the cupbearer forgot about Joseph. So time passes, and then Pharaoh has a dream, but no one can interpret his dream. So then the cupbearer remembers Joseph and tells Pharaoh everything that happened when he was in prison. And this leads to Joseph being brought out of prison and to come before Pharaoh. Joseph gives credit to God, telling Pharaoh that it's not him, but God gives the interpretation of dreams. Pharaoh's dream consisted of 2 parts. It was the first part of his dream was 7 thin and poor cows were ate up by 7 fat cows, or 7 thin and poor cows ate up 7 fat cows. Then 7 ears of grain, full and good, were ate up by 7 blighted thin ears. Joseph tells Pharaoh that the dreams are one, that there will be 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. God has shown what will come to pass. So let's pick up Joseph's conversation. I invite everyone to turn in their Bibles to Genesis chapter 41, and we'll read verses 33 through 41. That's Genesis chapter 41, verses 33 through 41. And this is Joseph speaking to Pharaoh. Joseph says, "Now therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh proceed to appoint overseers over the land, and take 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt during the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming, and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it. That food shall be a reserve for the land against the 7 years of famine that are to occur in the land of Egypt, so that the land may not perish through the famine." This proposal pleased Pharaoh and all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find a man like this, in whom is the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has shown you all this, there is none so discerning and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards the throne will I be greater than you." And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." So Joseph is now in second in command over the nation. Everything that God has shown is coming to pass. The famine became so severe over all the earth. His father Jacob learns that there is grain available in Egypt and sends all of his sons to buy some except for Benjamin. He sends them there, and when they arrive, they come face to face with their brother, but they don't recognize him. They bow to him, and then Joseph remembers the dreams that he had from long ago. Joseph puts his brothers to the test, and they tell him the truth. He commands for them to bring back the youngest brother, but one of the brothers must stay in Egypt. Simeon is chosen to stay behind. But his brothers began to speak among themselves about what they did to their brother Joseph, regretting what they did. So they return to their father, Jacob, with grain from Egypt, and they have to go back, this time with Benjamin. When they arrive, they are brought into Joseph's house and are reunited with Simeon. They are fed and treated well, and they still don't know it's their brother. They are given provisions to return to Jacob, but there's one last test for Joseph and his brothers. By Joseph's direction, the steward of the house puts a silver cup in Benjamin's bag. They are stopped after they leave and are accused of stealing. They all say, "Whoever took something be put to death, and the rest be servants." The guards search through the bags, and of course, they find the cup in Benjamin's bag. So they're brought back in front of Joseph. And he tells them that they're free to go except for Benjamin. Judah begins to plead with Joseph for him to stay, because if Benjamin doesn't return to Jacob, their father, he would die from grief. Joseph now knows his brothers have changed. He tells them who he is. And let's see what Joseph says to his brothers in Genesis chapter 45, verses 4 through 10. That's Genesis chapter 45, verses 4 through 10. So Joseph says to his brothers, "Come near to me, please." And they came near, and he said, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. And God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh, and lord of all his house, and ruler over all the land of Egypt. Hurry and go up to my father and say to him, 'Thus says your son Joseph, God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me and do not tarry. You shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, you and your children and your children's children, and your flocks, your herds, and all that you have.'" We can see the most important lessons for Joseph and his brothers. We see love, mercy, and forgiveness. Through his trials and training, he had been prepared to help Egypt and the surrounding countries with a very great famine. Friends, like Joseph, we are being prepared for God's kingdom. We are being changed to show the same traits that Joseph showed in his life. Today, there is a spiritual famine in the land, and just like when the nations came to buy food during the famine in Joseph's day, some people are looking right now for the spiritual food. But when Christ begins to rule, then the rest of the nations will recognize their need for this food as well. Then we'll be able to give the invitation that's given to all of us. I invite everyone to please turn to Isaiah chapter 55 and verse 1. That's Isaiah chapter 55 and verse 1. We'll be able to tell everyone, "Come, everyone who thirst, come to the waters, and he who has no money, come buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without money and without price." We'll be able to say that about God's knowledge, because in God's kingdom, the famine will be over. And what a wonderful time when the knowledge of the Lord will fill the earth, fill the whole earth. Everyone will know the true knowledge of our Heavenly Father. So friends, let us remember what our Heavenly Father through Christ is doing for every one of us, that everything we go through, it's meant for our good. So friends, let us please remember Joseph's example for us.